So last time, remember how we actually made like a single Docker file? This time we're gonna work with Docker Compose. Um, so right now we run all our apps with Docker run. Like last time we ran it with Docker, like just gonna type it out, Docker run, like that. This time we're gonna do something different because this was the way to run only one container. Move this here. So let's use Docker Compose. Do you have?
You want me to get a file open?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So one more reason why we want to use Docker Compose is because we want to run multiple containers. For a really good example here is Google Maps. Like for example, Google Maps has a calculator that determines how long it takes to like get between one location and another location, for example. And it also has like a map view and it has like other features as well, right? It has like bus information and like everything else. So you kind of want to store all of those in separate APIs, like different backends essentially. So it's like more modular. And the way to do that is you use multiple containers. And the way you use like you work with multiple containers is using Docker Compose. So let me create a Docker Compose file. Yeah. Yeah. So this is our Docker file last time. Just to reiterate or like review. This determines your Python version. You run make directory, so you're creating a folder, user/app, right? And then you're changing your work directory to user.app, user/app, and you're copying over all your files to that directory. You're running pip install to get all your libraries installed. And then the CMD right here, this is the command that will run during when you're actually running the container. So it will run our app by using the command we've always been using, python3 app.py. So this is the Docker file. Now let's actually make a Docker Compose file. So docker-compose.yml. So this is a Docker Compose file. It uses a YAML extension. So the first line we want to write is the version of Docker Compose or like the version of the compose we're using. So we're just gonna write version, and here we're gonna use version 3. I believe now it's like at version 3.8 or 3.9, but for our use case, we can just stick with version 3. And then Copilot's on. I got it. Okay, just turn it on right here.
I think
Manage. Oh shit.
I got it.
Six extensions. I usually just use like that thing on top.
Sorry, we had to switch computers last
Yeah,
minute, so
nice.
maybe it works
Cool.
now.
I think it does. Nice. Yeah, so version, this is the version of Docker Compose we're using. And then the second thing we want to run is just command services like that. And this under this services like tag is where you want to list all the containers you will have. So for example, for this like demo, I'm gonna make a container. I'm gonna run a container and I'm gonna name it demo. So this is container one. And then for each container, we can have multiple features or configurations. The first one I'm gonna do is I'm gonna state which image is gonna use, which image is gonna run as a container, right? So here for now I'm gonna set it as like, let's say our container name is demo, but later we'll actually like create a container and I'll change this. So let's say our container name is demo and we're running it. Sorry, our image name is demo and we're gonna run it, right? So we set the image name to demo, and then we also can set the ports. So here the ports will actually be 2 ports. So I'm just gonna write out first 5,000, 5,000. So here you can actually list all the ports you want to run it on. If you can see here why I have 5,000, 5,000. The first one is actually the port you want to run locally. So this is the local port where you want to actually run your Docker container. And then the second port right here, the second port is where, like inside your container, where your app is going to run inside the container. So I'm running my Docker container on port 5,000. So imagine I change it to 8,000. So I'm running my Docker container on port 8,000. But inside the container, the app is running on port 5000. Does that make any sense? Because like usually what you guys have been doing is like you're running it on port 5000, right? So like imagine you are running it inside a Docker container with port 5000, but on my computer on Sky's laptop, the Docker container will be running on port 8000. So that's why we have two ports essentially. Does that make any sense? Any questions? Yeah.
So what is a port?
What is a port? How do I define a port? Uh, let me just Google it for you. Okay, like a better, I wouldn't be able to come up with this, but like a virtual endpoint on a computer or server that identifies a specific process or service using a unique number. Yeah, I mean you can Google that too. I can't like define a port for you, like it's not on top of my head, but
I think you can think about it as like some area in your computer that's allocated for a specific task. So like you remember originally like the AirPlay receiver, if you had a Mac, would be on port 5000. So that was like what the Mac decided to use to run its AirPlay receiver. So we're just choosing 8000 because it's or 5000 because it's like a normal choice. But yeah, I don't really know the best technical definition either, but
yeah, it's sort of like an IP address as well. Like your computer has like a selection of different ports they can use to like host something essentially, and like the convention is like 5000 or 8000. But yeah, it's just like the outlet that they're like serving something. I don't know, like yeah, you're saying?
There's like 8,000 ports, or is that just like
I forgot how many ports there were actually. Oh my God. Yeah, there are 65,535 available TCP ports and the same number of UDP ports. I haven't taken networks, so I'm not really qualified to say this. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. So you want to run two containers. So eventually, like, okay, let me just copy this and let's make a different container just for example's sake. So essential here, let's say here I have like this is my demo container, and here I want to like run like eateries container, for example. Eatery, and then the image is like eatery slash like latest or something. Not latest, that's a tag. Uh Something like that. If you run like this, were you say which port were you saying was going to be the same? The first one or the second one? Or just like oh okay. So the first one is where the containers are running on your computer, right? So if you have them the same, it will clash. I don't think it will work because you cannot run two containers on the same port, right? On your laptop. And however, for the second one, that can be the same. So for example, here, let me like make it like 7,000. This would work because these are the 5,000, 5,000. Those are the ports inside each container. So remember how a container is like a running instance of your computer of a computer inside a computer. So you can imagine like two computers running inside this laptop. One is running Eatery, one is running the demo. And each of those computers, they have their own ports, right? So 5,000 here is different from 5,000 on the other one. So that would work. Does that make sense? All right. But yeah, if you have the like the first one as both the same, probably won't work. You should probably test that if you're curious. I actually never tested that before. Um, yeah. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Let me delete this. But yeah, that's just an example of how you would like run multiple containers. This is how you do it. It's just listing it under services in the same format. Yeah. So let's bring it back to 5,000. Um, let's see. So this is mostly it. You just have to specify which image you're running and what ports you want to run them on. And then after this, where's the terminal? Right. Nice. So now we can actually use the Docker Compose. We can use Docker Compose to actually run our containers. So last time, we actually run our Docker containers like this. Let me actually go back and try and show you the difference. So you do Docker run and then you specify the port. Um, this is without Docker Compose. This is like the one we did last time, right? So Docker run -p stands for we're setting the port, and I'm gonna set it to 5,000, 5,000, like that. And then I'm gonna set to be interactive mode so I can see the logs and everything. And it would be, would you have Docker open?
I don't on my laptop. I can just.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Let's try this one. So I'm gonna run this Docker container.
Oh, that's kind of annoying.
Oh,
I like press Command C, so it didn't say.
it's all good. That. Let me copy this. Yeah.
I need the tag probably.
Tag is
B. I just want to copy it.
yep. B.1.0.0.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's try run this Docker container. This is just running with without Docker Compose. Let's see if this works. Yep, there you go.
It's interesting that it says 8,000. I think the app.py might say 8,000.
Oh, this is the
still.
old version.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's running on 8,000 right now. Let's actually wait, let me change this so it's 5,000 and DB is fine. And let me actually add a hello world here so we can see. So print or just return. Yeah, I'll rebuild it after this, but yeah. So this is how we run a Docker container without the Docker Compose. It works. So now let's try to do it with Docker Compose. So first thing we have to do last time, I mean, I changed some code. So let's actually just go through, let's review what we did last time. There's going to be Docker build, and you specify which directory. So I'm just going to use dot here to specify the current directory. That will build. And this actually doesn't have a tag actually. So if I do Docker images, oh, it should be, yeah, this is none and like tag none. So let me add the name. So it's going to be sky slattery slash demo 5 demo dash 5. And I'm going to specify the tag as like v2 maybe. So v.2. Let's do that. And then don't forget the dot. Oh wait, why am I do Docker images? Docker build, my bad. Hmm? Oh, I forgot the dash T
Oh, yeah.
right here, dash T. So I set the tag to be that. Nice. So if I do Docker images, it should be right here. Yeah, v2. So now we've successfully built our image. Now let's run it. Let's deploy it with Docker Compose. So the command to use Docker Compose is literally just docker-compose. And then here you want to compose up. So we just the term is composing up and composing down. So like we're starting it and we're stopping it. So Docker compose up, and then let's press enter. Oh, we got a Docker. Yeah. So don't forget. This is also another thing. Like you have to be logged into your Docker account to be able to use this. I see you got to log into this.
Sorry.
Hold on.
We were trying to talk.
Yeah. So now we can just run Docker Compose up to use Docker Compose to start our container, right? So this will actually run your Docker Compose file, or not run, maybe it'll just read it and we'll check all your configurations and it will run it on 5,000, and it will use the image demo, right? So I think here it won't work because I haven't changed the demo, like the image name. Yeah, so what Docker login again?
What?
Oh, it worked. Wait, what? Oh yeah, okay, wait, sorry, this is a different error. It's saying Docker login, it doesn't work because we're trying to use the image demo and probably someone has something out there called demo. So we have to change this. So the image we're using is, let me clear Docker images. The image we want is this one, right? So Sky Slattery demo 5. I can paste it here and I can put the tag v2. So v.2, right? Yeah. So now we're using the correct image and I have to save that. And take note here, like the Docker Compose is not like you don't have to build again in this case because the Docker Compose is not like included inside your image, right? It's not going to be zipped along with all your code, right? This is like the config file that will be running everything. So it's like you can change it and you don't have to rebuild. That's actually one thing I kept doing when I was like learning in this class. I kept rebuilding every time I changed Docker Compose, but you actually don't have to rebuild because this is a file, like whatever will be like built into an image does not include Docker Compose. Um, Also, I forgot to add one thing. Before we run it again, we should have Docker ignore. So, I mean, here we're not using it, but Docker ignore. I'll introduce this now, but I'll use it later. So Docker ignore is just like the git ignore. You know how you have a git ignore file to ignore things you want to push to GitHub? Similarly, Docker ignore will ignore files you do not want to build into an image. So we'll use this later. Right now, we want to actually like build everything. So let's try again. So go back to terminal. Docker compose up. There you go. So you can see here, this is what you guys usually see, right? So it's running on port 5000. If I try and copy this, where's right here? Yeah, you can see hello world. And that's because I added the route, the base route to have right here. I'll just show you guys. The base route will return hello world. So that's why you're seeing hello world. So it works. Hooray. So what you guys saw was this using Docker Compose instead of Docker, like just Docker by itself to run your container, right? And you can see you can have all the logs are here. Like I got it just now and like it's failing to get the icon once again. But let me just do Control C. And you can see when I do Control C, it's like it's stopping the containers. And we're not doing this with like what was the command last time? Docker exit or something like that. It's actually like stopping it for us. Yeah, so now it's stopped, and if I do docker ps, it's not there anymore. PS just lists the number, like the containers that are running. I actually forgot to show that it's running. But another flag you could use to make sure you're not like stuck inside this interactive mode is just use -d. And -d, the flag stands for detached. So you're detached, and it will run like it'll run not in the background, but it'll just run without you having to like watch the output like this. So let me just run it and show you how it works. So this is the same thing. It ran and it started, right? So see, I can actually still type stuff in the command line because it's in detached mode, it's not interactive mode. So now I can show you it's actually running. So if I do docker ps, you can see I have a container running here. This is what we like to see right here. So container ID, image, command. I mean, the names are kind of like, let me go full. Yeah, something like that. So container ID, image, command created, status ports. And this is the container ID. This is the image we ran, you see. And this is the command. So we ran python3 app.py. It's created about a minute ago. Status up for 11 seconds. If I like do docker ps again, it's up for 43 seconds. You can see the ports, 5000. And yeah, you can see the names as well. But here you can actually like you can't actually see the logs, right? Where did all of this go, right? Because we're not running it in interactive mode, we're running it in detached mode. We actually don't see the logs. So if I go here and I like reload this page a couple times, I reload like 3 times, it doesn't show up here. So the way to access the logs in case you want to debug or anything is you have to copy the container ID. So just copy that and do docker logs and then paste the container ID there. So this way, if I press enter, you can see like it prints out all the logs. So let me clear and do that again. Docker logs like this. Where is it? Right there. Wait. Oh, right here. So it starts from here. So you can see all the logs that it has like that it recorded essentially. And you can see like I reloaded it 3 times, and you can see here it ran a get request 3 times. So that's how you run a container using Docker Compose. Oh my God. Yep. Any questions so far? It's quite simple. It's like it's not really like much other than different like ideas and syntax, I guess. So next we're gonna be learning about environment variables. So last time we talked about environment variables. Imagine like a secret dictionary that you store that you don't want like people to see, right? So you just have like your passwords there, your API keys, and you store them there, and the user or like people online will not be able to see it if your code's open source. So let's try and actually do that. So here I'm gonna make a .env file, and here I'm just gonna make a environment variable name like named name, and I'm gonna set that to my name and maybe my net ID as well. Yeah, that like that. I save that. Oh wait, it's not charging. There you go. Okay. So I got my name and ID in my env file. So now let's go back to my app.py. And uh, here, if I want to use my env variables, I cannot actually just like get them like last time. So like here you would, let me write the function first and show you it doesn't work. So let me change the hello world function. Um, let me do a return hello, and then here I would do os.environment and access a key name. And here, don't forget to import OS. So this would essentially print hello Joshua, print my name. It will get the environment variable from our environment, and it'll print it, right? However, this won't work because we're actually running in a container, right? So the way to be able to like let me explain a bit about environment variables. So environment variables have to be like loaded into your environment first. If you're in a container, you have to actually load it, like somehow you have to load it in first, right? The way we can do that is actually inside a Docker Compose file. So in the Docker Compose file, we can add another config. There are like a bunch of configs. You guys can search it up online, but here you can have .env_file, and this specifies which file will be your env file. So here it's just gonna be env.env, which is where I have my environment variables here. And if I save that, I mean, here I'd have to build again because I changed this. So let me build again. Where is it? Right here. So let me change that to v3 maybe. Just build that. All right, that worked. And then I have to change my Docker Compose to v3 because I want the v3 image right here. Let's actually check if it actually like successfully built my image. So Docker images, right here we have v3. Okay, so we know that's there. We've changed this to v3 on our Docker Compose. So now we can just do Docker Compose up and on detached mode. So let's try run this.
I think. Oh,
Wait, what?
you ever
Wrong
run Docker
syntax.
Compose down?
Oh, I have not. It's still running. Yeah, let me do Docker Compose down. I think it's a different error though. Yeah, but let me just run Docker Compose down to like delete or like turn off the container. I ran this now. Oh, now it's like, let me change it to 2 first. Close down. This will stop the container. And then let me try and debug why this does not work. .env_file. Should work. I don't know why it doesn't work. Docker ps. Okay, there are no containers. Let's try running it again. Docker compose up hd. File is not allowed. Okay, what? This should work. .env_file. .env. Oh. Is it because we're not in a virtual environment?
Maybe.
Let me try to do that actually. Let's make a virtual environment and see if it works in there. Oh, 3. Activate. Okay. Install. Okay. And then let's try do that again. Huh.
It could be something with like the version of the
But I'm using version 3. Version 3 should be
working.
should be
But I
working.
think sometimes it can like ignore the version.
It can do that. Really?
Try adding like 3.5.
Let's try that.
Or you could, I mean, you could just show it on your computer if it doesn't work here.
Yeah. It worked on my computer.
You want to just show it?
But this is so ironic. This is like the problem that Docker was meant to solve. So like eliminate all the it works on my computer like issues. Why does it not work?
Must be .env file. .env file.
It's meant to be .env file.
Did you, I mean, if you guys find
Read the
something,
dot.
This one? You can try that, I guess. But
oh,
what?
you'll come up here and teach, bro.
No, I just Googled it.
Oh, thank you.
But I guess
I
there's
don't
a
know
different
why.
version. Wait,
It's probably just a like, I was just
That's
looking
weird.
it up as well, and apparently like the Docker Compose version can get inferred sometimes, and it'll ignore the version at the top. So it might be like still on version 2. And I don't know.
Huh.
Or a more later version.
No, because I always run mine with .env file.
Yeah,
and it
that's what I
works.
used.
So this is a okay. If it doesn't work for you guys, just try both of them. Just try both of them. But yeah, that's a weird error. Like I always use the dot. Okay. So now it should work. I mean here we're in. Let's use the um detached mode again, and let's see the right here. Let's use the detached mode.
Yeah, I should give him an egg, bro.
Yeah, I should toss him an egg, bro. So Docker PS, see it's running. Docker logs. Okay, it's running. And then let's try to reload this page. There you go. So now it's loading the environment variable, and you can see it's printing my name. So that's how you get the environment variables to work in Docker Compose. Let me just summarize it one more time because that was a bit of a bumpy demo. So Docker Compose file, you have the version, service. This is where you list all your containers. So this is an example of one container. We're going to name the container demo. And we have the image that it references. In this case, is Sky's demo 5 with version 3. This is the image we're referencing. We're running it on port 5000. This is our local computer's port 5000 and 5000. The second one, this is the port inside the container. And then here, the environment env file is just to state which file we're gonna like load our environment variables from. In this case, it's gonna be this file right here. So yeah, that's basically Docker, like the entirety of Docker Compose. There are like a million other tags you can use to specify like other configurations. But we're teaching you these like 3 for now.
We don't have too much time until we
That is true. Yeah.
But we only have like one more thing to do.
Yeah. So let's actually push and pull to Docker Hub right now. We haven't actually pushed and pull. So now we're going to use the Docker ignore. So now that we have a virtual environment, here you actually want to add, we don't want to have our virtual environment pushed to Docker Hub, right? Because this is also a big file. So we're going to add the fen to be ignored. And we're also going to ignore, I don't see PyCache here.
We've never run it, but there would be if we ran it.
Yeah. But I am running it.
But like locally, I think it only happens.
All right. So let's ignore PyCache because this is a cache from running the virtual environment. So these will not be, these are the files or directories that will not be included when copying our files here. Yep. So when we're building, right? When we're building, we're moving all the files into user/app. The ones inside Docker ignore, like the virtual environment and PyCache, will not be copied over. So it won't be like included in the image, as I said. So now let's actually push it. So I'm going to Docker compose down. And then the command to push is really simple. It's just Docker push. If this wants to stop. Okay. Docker push. And then you want to have your image name. In this case, it's sky slattery slash demo dash 5. And the tag was v.3, I believe. Yep. Access token.
I think it's something about my logging in.
All right, let's
Just
if you were managed to log in properly, this would work. It would like load everything and it would push it to Docker Hub. And if you went to Docker Hub and like it's just Docker Hub, and then inside Docker Hub, you just search for like Sky's name or my name, you would find all our, see, he did PA5 here. You can see it's PA5. If you like search up my name, you'll also be able to see my projects. I have some like public projects on there too. Yeah, so that was like demo 5, which I tested an hour ago, but my laptop like didn't want to work. But when you push, it will show up on Docker Hub like here. And then what you can do, I'll just show you the command. Is Docker pull. Let me actually pull one of my projects. So I can pull, or let's pull a Docker project. So Docker slash whale say. This is a Docker, this is like the account Docker and the repository whale say. And if we pull, it will see it uses the latest tag default. It uses the default tag latest. It's pulling, and because we already like pulled it just now, it doesn't re-pull. It just automatically does. But usually, pulling takes like a few seconds. And then what we can do is we can actually do Docker run. We can specify the platform Linux / AMD 64. And then here we specify which image we want to run. So Docker / whale say. And here there's just some extra commands to just see what it does. And if we run that, it prints a whale. Yeah. So we pulled like a default image from Docker, like obviously specifically for these kinds of demos. And then we actually ran it using the platform right here and specify the image. And then I actually do not know what these commands are, but
I think it's just for this
yeah,
specific example.
it prints boo here. It says like whatever the whale wants to say. Like let's change this to hi maybe. Hi. There you go. So that's how you run it. That's how you push and pull from Docker. We didn't illustrate the push, but the pull works. So just make sure you're logged in properly next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're on your own devices.
Yeah.